Welcome to Her Self-Reclaimed. I'm Jennifer Soames, an integrative health and capacity coach, helping women rebuild their energy and capacity so they can make effective decisions, set stronger boundaries, and create sustainable success in both life and in business. Today, I am joined by Rosemary Hossenlopp. Let me share a bit about her, and then we'll bring her in for our discussion. Based in the Charleston, South Carolina area, Rosemary is a seasoned global technology leader with a strong focus on driving organizational success in strategic technology programs. With deep expertise in leadership coaching, she helps organizations and business leaders align technology initiatives with business outcomes that support innovation, growth, and operational excellence. Welcome, Rosemary. Let me bring her in here. I am so thrilled to have you join us today. Thank you so much for being here.
I'm delighted to be here.
Great. Well, as you know, and if you're new to the channel, this may be new information to you, but preventing burnout is the focus of my work with women entrepreneurs. And a lot of women here want to avoid sliding down that slippery slope. A lot of women experience burnout, but don't really realize it until they're fully in it. They're exhausted, depleted, and perhaps even unable to keep doing the things that they love. It's so important to catch the signs of it early so that they don't get to that point. Rosemary, you've made a clear shift from time management to energy management. What are the first three signals a high-performing entrepreneurial woman should treat as energy debt before it becomes full-on burnout?
Great question. And there is a clear distinction between time management and energy management. First of all, both are important. So, time management is a strategic prioritization of tasks, and it answers the question when and where are my self-care, family time, and then work going to happen? This is unusual. We focus on self-care and family time while we do as entrepreneurs or leaders or prioritization. For me as a businesswoman, the time management is a logistics of my life. It ensures that the big rocks occur and that self-care isn't crowded out. Energy management is different, and it's a practice of optimizing our mental health to ensure that you and I are bringing our best selves to our tasks. It's about keeping us in a place where we can get the best outcomes. So the sweet spot for us leaders occur when these two overlap. So just as an example, if we schedule the most difficult client discussions, which is time management, for the time of the day where you feel most confident and articulate, that is energy management. Well, but the problem is energy debt. So energy debt is much like a bank account. We must deposit energy dollars to remain healthy. And when we constantly spend more than we deposit, we enter a deficit. Any questions before I jump into the three signals that a high-performing entrepreneurial woman maybe has an energy debt problem?
No, dive right in, please.
Awesome. So high performance doesn't mean current success because we might be transitioning into a new role, into a new industry, into a new geography. And it means that we're aligning our actions against a future vision. And doing new things takes a lot of energy. And when we don't do well, we're hard on ourselves when we're not
Yes,
confident in 30 seconds, right?
absolutely. I know I am. Like if I feel like I haven't mastered something like right away, then I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I've failed in some way." But that's not the case.
So there are energy debt checklist items that I'm monitoring consistently. And so the first one is negative self-talk. So 2 weeks ago, I lost a document. My inner voice was saying, "How can you?" And like, really, do I want a dose of shame and criticism along with my morning coffee? Absolutely not. So after a bit of spinning, I changed my self-talk to, "Hey, I'm super organized." And really, I do believe it. So it's not as if I'm trying to make myself believe it, because my superpower really is that I'm super productive. And I need to keep reminding myself of my superpowers before I start that downward shame spiral that can lead to burnout. And if you don't stop it, your brain is going to very kindly scan for ways to prove to you how bad of a person you are. Yeah, no, we don't need that. So the solution is to recognize this and to be gentle on ourselves. So a lot of times I do the talk about, hey, girlfriend, what's going on here?
Mm.
And have a productive mental reframing of the circumstance. Any thoughts?
That is so important. And I know even for myself, like I found a situation last week where there was something I could have done better, and then I started to spiral. And it's like it is the human condition, and yet with the all of the brain rewiring that I have done, like I know that it is about reframing those things, going like, is this true? Like really, like am I a bad person, or did I really mess that up? And it's like, no. Like a good friend of mine was like, really, like that's not a big deal. Let it go. And I was like, oh,
Oh,
yeah, thank you for that reality check because it didn't matter. It was not a big deal, and my brain wanted to make it a big deal. So I love that, like that grace to give yourself and that check in going like, what really is up, and having that moment where you step back out of it and just take a moment to reflect. Is this really what I need to be spending my energy on? So I'm so glad you brought that up.
thank you. Well, there's a close cousin to negative self-talk. It's self-recrimination. And this is a sneaky energy and productivity drain. It differs in that it's a more constant inner voice. And so I have an upcoming talk, and I downloaded a free PowerPoint for this speech. And I almost went on a chase for multiple templates due to my mind saying, not close enough to my brand, not friendly enough for the audience. And I actually had shame for taking a shortcut rather than creating a custom branded template. Actually, my first choice was good enough. And so our perfectionism may trick us into being seemingly righteous or right in our thought processes, where good enough is actually a productivity enhancer. So the solution is we need to put new tasks on our calendar because new tasks, such as getting a new template for a different topic, requires some focus. Doesn't happen in 30 seconds. So we need to recognize this and be gentle on ourselves. So we can also, I can get stuck on numbing activity, scanning Facebook when I need to be writing marketing blogs. Jennifer, are you laughing at me?
No, I am completely agreeing with you because and like for those of you listening at home, like if you find yourself going, yeah, that's me. She just described me too, right? Like this is what so many women entrepreneurs experiences. Yeah, that the going like I'm not good enough, and trust me, as a recovering perfectionist, which I've mentioned on previous episodes, like I've done a lot of work around that, and yet it's still a work in progress. But realizing that, like, as one of my teachers used to say, things are better enough. And
Oh, I love that.
I love that better enough because sometimes it's not the best, but is it better enough? And like, is it your best effort? Maybe, maybe not that day for whatever reason. But it's like things can be better enough, and that is okay. And, when we find ourselves distracted intentionally, and also because it's what it's meant to do on things like social media and going, oh, I should be doing this. And then we get hard on ourselves going, oh, but I should be doing that. But all I want to do is check out, and having those moments. So for those of you listening, like if you're relating to this, like keep listening because I know Rosemary's got a lot of great insights to share with you still.
So, in order to be wickedly productive, we need to schedule new tasks that take a lot of energy to do them. And we need to recognize that we need to schedule it and we need to do it to build trust in ourselves and our capability to be able to show up as our fabulous selves. The last one's a little tricky, Jennifer. It's being other focused. And you're like going, what? Because that seems wrong and different than how we were raised. And last Sunday, I wanted to work on client obligations. The solution was I stopped myself and said, no, my superpower is productivity and I'll meet the client deadline. And so I protected my rest, which was self-care.
That is fantastic. And I think sometimes it's easy to forget that self-care is actually other focused, because if we don't prioritize that, because we think other focus is doing things for everybody else, which women are really good at, generally speaking.
We are.
And yet, like, we think, oh, that's other focus. That's really, really good. But it's at the expense of ourselves. And so, like, we've heard this adage. It's become so cliche of, like, you can't serve others if you're serving from an empty cup, kind of thing. And we get that. And yet, how many of us at times throw that out the window and we're like, I'm just going to do everything for everyone else, and I'll just put myself on the back burner. So self-care really is in service of others.
Hmm. Yes.
I love that. Those three things are so important. And what I've noticed too is that women are really good at saying yes, and often too good at saying yes, especially to other people. A lot of women don't feel empowered to say no to clients, to family, to opportunities. But what's a values-based way to decide what gets a yes, what gets a no, and what gets maybe a not right now?
Fantastic. And for women, business owners and leaders, a value-based system mindset, you need to have that where you have a core set of principles that drive every decision. For me, using values is a compass that helps me navigate tough decisions or discussions that I need to have. And it helps me do it more consistently so I don't surprise people. And for me, a simple value is that I don't work on Sunday. This isn't a religious decision, it's a rest decision. So hard no. And I laugh at myself when I want to violate it, but yeah, hard no. For me, a more complex discussion over the past decades of my career is honesty. I take ethics very seriously, and as recently reviewing Invoice, it has tasks on it that I hadn't asked for, and we all react differently. Yet, since ethics is such a core principle for me, I was more than just curious about it and, just send them a quick email. I went directly to frustration, but I recognized my frustration and I stepped away. So when I step back into the discussion, I'll have the right mindset. I'll have the appropriate manners so I can just be curious with this person about this invoice. So, thoughts, Jennifer?
Well, I like how you pointed out the difference really there in that experience between reacting and responding, because especially in this society right now, which no matter what country you're in, no matter what part of the world you're in, people are reactive. People are extremely reactive right now, and just hop on any social media, you'll see it in a split second. But it is taking that moment to take a breath and to look at things and really think logically, like use the part of our brain, the prefrontal cortex, to use logic. And that reactivity is really coming like from another part of the brain, the whole limbic system. And so like just taking that pause, taking a breath and going, I could respond this way, frustrated, angry, or I could just get curious. And so I love how you brought curiosity into that, because the more curious we can be on things, then the more open we are to learning things, to possibility, to also relationships, especially those business relationships where it's like you could say, what did you do? What did you build this? It's like, can you explain that to me a little bit? I'm really curious about that. And so I lost my train of thought, which happens, especially with a brain injury. It gets squirrely easily, but yeah, I really like how you brought in values, because even as I've gone through my health and well-being coaching with Duke, like everything is centered around values, values and vision, both. And I love that you brought all of those things into how are you going to decide what to do and or not to do, like not working on Sundays, because yeah, we can easily go, oh, well, I'm just going to do it this one time, and then what happens? But then years down the road, and then we go, wait, I don't even know what my values are anymore because you've drifted so far away from them. So having really strong values and understanding what they are can help people decide every action that they take or not take. And so yeah, it really impacts our day-to-day decisions and how we show up, not only in our business but just in every aspect of our lives. Yeah. And talking about like self-care, it has become pretty cliche, and yet it is
It has.
absolutely critical, like you said, to our mental, physical, and our emotional well-being. You talk about see if I can get this word right, operationalizing self-care. If a listener is kind of like allergic to fluffy advice but desperately needs relief, what does a real self-care system look like in a weekly calendar in your eyes?
So for me, productivity is my superpower. And on Monday, I carve out an hour to plan my week. And you're like going, I don't
Wow.
have an hour, right? Because we're crazy busy. All of us are kind of skirting on the edges of burnout just due to a lot of pressure and chaos that's going on. And if we're already too busy, how do I carve out an hour? But I've learned from my coach to do another crazy routine. So in that hour on Monday, I prioritize personal self-care first in my calendar. This is energy management and it's alignment with my values. Put my workouts into my schedule. I schedule time with friends and family first. And then I don't overschedule work. I got caught up last week in overscheduling, and it was just a reminder to not get crazy. And you, it's just it erodes the self-trust that I have with my self, that I'm making commitments that I can't meet. Because I think last time I checked, we only have 24 hours in the day.
Right? No matter how much wishful thinking that we have, that we want more. Like, I don't need sleep. Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, an hour on Mondays to carve out your weekly self-care plan. That's awesome. And I know a lot of people would be like, I don't have an hour to carve that out. But on the flip side, what happens if you don't spend that time to organize your schedule and you implement that self-care and have that on your calendar? Like, what happens if you don't do that, right? And actually, like, I caught myself the other week overbooking myself with work things, interviews, other business development things, and going like, oh my gosh, I overdid it. And there are times where we may have to kind of push up against those edges. There may be outside external things that we need to meet,
Absolutely.
and those things happen. But it's when we do it ourselves continually that really, really pushes us to that edge of burnout or even all the way into it. And even though I personally don't actually put like my exercise per se on my calendar, because my self-care is usually first thing in the morning, so I actually don't schedule anything until that time frame is already up. But this week things had to shift a little bit, so I actually blocked out time on my calendar later today for my self-care. So yeah, like ladies listening, if you're not putting your self-care on your calendar, how do you stay accountable? I'm just curious, like share how you actually stay accountable to that, because uh, there are many ways to do that. And if you have a way that works for you that might help other listeners, be sure to put that in the comments. I'd be curious.
And we can just giggle a little bit about I don't drink enough water. So some people who drink enough water, maybe don't need to schedule a reminder on that. So any new habit that you're trying to start, get it on the calendar. Or Jennifer said that she protects her early morning for her routine. And so if that's well established, it doesn't need to be scheduled. It's just assumed. We're not trying to make work. We're just trying to, build trust in ourselves to schedule it and do it to be in alignment with our vision.
Absolutely. And one thing I work on with clients, even as I complete my health and well-being coaching certification with Duke, is making action steps that actually like fit someone's real life. Because
Yes.
oftentimes we'll bite off this huge goal and go like, I'm going to do whatever it is, something big and time consuming or energy consuming or all of the above, and then realize, oh, that's too much. This is why things like New Year's resolutions tend to fail within the first 3 weeks, because people don't make them A, important enough, or two, really attainable in a way that makes sense to their real lives. So, like, ladies, as you're listening, as you think about what you want to implement for your self care, if you're not already doing it, start small. Take one thing that is A, really meaningful to you, and two, that you can actually take small steps toward achieving. So avoid that pitfall of I'm gonna run a marathon next month and you've never run a 5K, right? Like we've got to have some reality checks sometimes with that too. Anything else you want to say about that, Rosemary, before we move on to our next question?
Wise words.
Mm, mm. And I want to point out the wise words that Rosemary said of like, I don't over schedule work.
That's hard.
Yeah. And important. So, like, ladies, take that in, write it down, replay that over and over again until that becomes a reality in your own life. Because, yeah, it's easy to let work consume you, even when you are self employed, because there isn't so much of that distinction of like home and office when my office is at home. And so it's so important to protect that energy as well as your time because both are extremely important. Yeah. So, Rosemary, especially with all the work that I've done to heal my limbic system and heal limbic system impairment, which had me stuck in fight, flight, or freeze for
Hmm.
quite some time, I know how important it is for us to feel safe, both in our bodies and in our minds. You've taught psychological safety inside highly technical global teams. Define psychological safety, and how does it apply when you're a solo entrepreneur who's basically leading yourself?
So, psychological safety is when we believe that our personal or professional environment is safe for interpersonal risk taking, meaning you or your team feel they can speak up, ask questions, admit mistakes without fear of embarrassment, rejection, or punishment. Now, for women, psychological safety is particularly important because we face a lot of unique barriers, such as being interrupted more frequently or having our expertise questioned, which can make the stakes of speaking up feel higher. And so, why it matters specifically for us women entrepreneurs is that we're constantly doing new things. We both need to deliver our services, plus manage finances, marketing. And we need to watch our self-talk, what's happening between our two earballs. If we're constantly saying, just as an example, I hate marketing, it doesn't give you energy to market. So we need to change how we talk to ourselves. We need to be gentle on ourselves as we're learning skills or grow our business enough that we can outsource it. We're still responsible for the outcomes of marketing, but we can get people on our team. And other ways that I can see that I'm not safe, I'm not making it safe for me to be fabulous. Maybe silence and self-shielding. So in a lot of unsafe environments, in the past, I know I've adjusted appearance or tone of voice to avoid negative reactions. I've also stuffed my emotions. So in unsafe environments, we just get on with it. but we have a burnout hangover as a result. So, thoughts, Jennifer?
Burnout hangover, that is going to be a phrase I'm going to have to borrow and attribute to you in the future because that's just brilliant. Yeah, and we in a workplace environment where we are working with teams and things, I think, yeah, we do tend to think more about the psychological safety. And when we're in a solopreneur, like we're accountable to ourselves, and yet we either have clients or customers, and we still have those same kind of interactions with people where we want to show up in a certain way. Our expertise still can get questioned. Like you said, like women tend to have to essentially defend themselves in that way much more than men do. And so I think we tend not to think about the psychological safety, but we can still create that even in our own businesses, whether we have people that we work with directly or it's the people that we're serving, because we're still not isolated completely, even in our businesses. Yeah. How else does a woman really create that psychological safety, even for herself, as she's, leading her own business?
So, absolutely, psychological safety is very important to us solo entrepreneurs as we make commitments and then follow through. If we don't follow through, we've overcommitted. We don't understand how long some of these new tasks take. We can quickly go into another shame spiral. So instead, we really need to get into a habit of self-reflection to understand our default habits that sabotage our success. Journaling's a great way for me as an introvert to do self-reflection. Thoughts?
Identifying those self-sabotaging behaviors and thoughts is definitely key, and one that I know I don't like to necessarily dive into, but I'm willing to, because
Yes.
I know that if they perpetuate, it doesn't serve me nor anybody else. So, like, ladies listening, if you know that you have self-sabotaging thoughts or behaviors, or usually both, and you've been avoiding them, avoid looking at those in the mirror and or on a journal or however you like to express that. How would it feel to actually take a moment to look at those things and start to change them? Like, what would that make possible for you to stop with those self-sabotaging thoughts and behaviors? Yeah, because so much opens up to us when those things don't run us anymore, right? It's like it's programming, and then we can decide, no, I'm not going to run that program anymore. I'm done.
I'm done.
Yeah. And it really can be that simple. And yet it does take a lot of practice and awareness. Like Rosemary, you mentioned earlier, of like reframing things. And trust me, like having spent over a year rewiring my brain, that's exactly what has to happen. Like you catch those thought patterns and then you shift them and then you catch them again and you shift them again. So it's perpetual practice. It's not a perfect, ladies. Like it's not about perfection. It is about just practice and practice and practice, because it does get easier and easier and easier too. I guarantee it. And I know in the past, you talked about feelings earlier. I've been really good at trying to hold myself together, especially on the outside. And I've even avoided my feelings altogether. Like I just didn't want to process it. I've written and spoken a lot about grief in particular, and like I didn't want to feel it. I didn't want to process it. I was very resistant. Listeners, can you relate to that? And Rosemary, you said that we either go stoic and ignore feelings or get swallowed by them. What's your practical emotions audit process that helps someone stay effective and emotionally honest?
Absolutely. So I'll just revisit. Do get better at reframing, but we need to, again, make that a core value to say, in order for me to show up as my fabulous self, I do need to have these emotional checkpoints of recognizing it, feeling. There's a book out there, love the title, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway.
Oh,
And yeah, and then journaling will help you start to articulate what are different ways and paths forward.
Yeah. What's something that you do when for yourself when you find yourself either avoiding your emotions or getting swallowed by them?
That's a great question. I, I think it really does go back to have I violated some sort of self-trust boundary with myself? Have I violated boundaries about just thinking, oh, family and friends will just, fit in the corners of my life? And so it's understanding. And if we violated something, maybe we'll have to, go, make amends in those areas. But first of all, we need to clean it up ourselves. We need to, go back and, feel those feelings and then just say, what are other feelings that we could have? Because those feelings are going to be able to create the energy and the momentum to do hard things. And so we do need to reset, different belief systems to drive different energy in different feelings to get different outcomes. So there's a chain from, beliefs to feelings to outcomes, and we need to take ownership over that cycle through self-reflection and journaling.
Yeah, for sure. Taking ownership of those things and taking ownership of our feelings. I think we get inundated with like how we should feel. And even as a yoga instructor and background in yoga and with my background as a body worker and dealing with people and their emotions that came up in their bodies, we're not separate from those things.
Mm-mm.
And yet, like there's so many ramifications when we do like essentially like swallow our feelings down. It impacts us not just mentally but physically too. And talks in terms of like being told even sometimes where our feelings should show up. I've heard even yoga instructors say like, oh well, this part of your body is where this emotion is stored, and I would go like, really? How do you know that? Like, it's going to be different for every person. And so it's really getting acquainted with like, how do these things show up and impact each and every one of us? Because it does affect how our productivity, and yet like it affects our health. And we have to just be able to sit with our emotions and to be able to discharge them in a healthy way, especially things like anger and grief and frustration. We gotta get those out of our body in a healthy way. I've gone to rage rooms before, and actually that's a fantastic way to get rid of anger and frustration. To in a safe space to be able to demolish something with a baseball bat is actually really great. So if you haven't tried it, I highly recommend it.
I haven't tried that one yet. I haven't broken anything lately.
It can be really therapeutic, I'm telling you. But we do have to just get honest with ourselves about how we're feeling, and rather than like, I'm fine. Like, are you really fine? No, I'm not. I'm breaking down inside. Then, we need to be honest with ourselves. And, it is about that self-trust, like you talked about, and always recreating that trust within ourselves. And I know when I've allowed myself to like break commitments to myself, it's so easy to do it again and again, like I mentioned earlier. And you've made a powerful point that breaking commitments, that we make with ourselves erodes that self-trust. So what's the simplest way to rebuild self-trust when you've trained yourself to override your own needs?
A great question. So let's just be very practical here. If we overschedule or underserve our self-care, or using a previous example, just assume that we'll fit serving our family in. If we're making a lot of assumptions that aren't valid, we're going to start to break. We're going to start to head into burnout because it's eroding our self-trust. And then that's going to, leak into a corrosive view of our world or how we treat others. And so we just need to pause, recognize that pattern. Journaling is going to help us if, in fact, we do it with gentleness and rigor. And we have the answers. We absolutely have the answers. We just need to pause. Because if we're journaling and then walking or running, those answers are going to pop up. And so we just need a process to reset ourselves. And we may need to do that over and over again. It's not just one and done.
That is for sure. Wouldn't it be nice if it was just one and done?
Darn it.
Darn
I
it.
can't fix
Like,
myself in one session. Darn it.
I've been working on that for decades, man. I thought I would just get it this one time. Man, yeah, that pause and reflect and to give ourselves grace and even forgiveness at times, because I know, and maybe I'm curious if you're this way too, Rosemary, but I'm really hard on myself. And I've had friends say, you're way too hard on yourself. And I think when we break that self trust, it's like we have to forgive ourselves and go, like, to ourselves, like, I'm sorry. I hear you. I see what I did. I'm sorry. And I am going to do better. I commit to doing better. Have you experienced something similar or maybe even different?
A little bit differently because I'm really hard on myself, and it's allowed me to accomplish a lot, and for which I'm proud of. But my coach has really taught me just a simple, just be curious and just that hey girlfriend, what's going on here?
Mm-hmm.
Because I've absolutely can be very rigorous to outline what's my belief, what do I feel here, what's my current outcomes, and I don't want that outcome, so let's restart belief, feelings, outcomes. But a lot of times we don't have time for that and so it's just more of a hey girlfriend, what's up? And so I just really appreciate that call to just be gentle and be curious.
Mm-hmm. Be gentle and be curious. Such wise words, and yet it can be so challenging to follow through on those things at times. And so, yeah, we definitely need those reminders. Just, yeah. So, thank you for reminding me of that, because I know I will need it, and I know our listeners will need that as well. So, we've got a couple final questions that I do ask everyone.
Yes, I
So,
feel
what's
like I'm at
one?
bat here.
You ready for it? So, what's one practice or mindset that helps you stay grounded when things feel uncertain or overwhelming?
For me, there's a lot of practices. It's but for me, the quick answer and profound answer is I just pray, just quick prayers. And it helps me feel not so alone in this because, there's a lot that we're doing in service of our business, in service of others. And so it's just, quick prayer. And I'm just not alone in this.
Yeah, so I've talked with other women entrepreneurs. This road can be extremely lonely at times. And it can feel like, even though we may have lots of interactions with clients or customers or other people that we collaborate with, it can still feel really lonely. And so, just having a sense of not being alone, however that shows up, like, that is such
Yes.
an important part of this journey, of this entrepreneurial journey. So I love that you have that for yourself through prayer. That's just a great practice to have so that you feel like you're not alone. And our last question, as we wrap up, what is your biggest takeaway from our conversation today?
Well, I think it's your journey. It's quite remarkable because trauma doesn't have to stop us. But it doesn't mean that your journey has been easy. So I just appreciate you and serving others with an integrative perspective based upon what you've been learning. So the
Thank you.
biggest takeaway is you.
Oh, well, thank you. I so appreciate that. I think my biggest takeaway, because there are many, but I love the couple things come to mind. One is just this continual practice of pausing and reflecting and looking at those, emotions, the feelings, the outcomes, and going like, what is going on? Check in, girlfriend, what's going on? And so that continual practice is really something that stands out to me as something that's really valuable and useful, as well as just giving ourselves grace and also staying curious, like those two things, like grace and curiosity.
Yes.
So I couldn't just pick one. So those are some of the things that stand out to me as like really gold nuggets for people. So listeners, I'm really curious what your takeaways are. I would love to see them in the comments. So please share them with us. Well, thank you, Rosemary, so much for being here today, for sharing all of that with us. It's been such a pleasure to talk with you.
Thank you.
So I'm going to take Rosemary out here, and while I do, Rosemary's information is going to be in the description, so be sure to connect with her, check out all of her information, and follow up with any questions that you may have. I'm sure she would be happy to answer them for you. And to everyone listening, thank you for being here today. If something resonated with you, or maybe something really sparked something within you, be sure to subscribe so that you stay connected for more conversations that support your energy, your capacity, and your leadership. See you in the next episode.